Stocks trade in a narrow range with advances and declines evenly balanced. Utilities and consumer durables eke out gains while FMCG and auto stocks are the big drags. Hindustan Unilever misses second quarter volume growth expectations on a dip in personal care and food segment. The management echoes fears pointing to an urban slowdown as the culprit. Even as the pickup in rural demand is visible, the stock is down 7%. French aluminium maker Constellium reports a weak performance for the quarter on the back of weak demand in the aerospace and auto segment. Hindalco arm Novelis' significant exposure to the autos hurts sentiment. Escorts Kubota strikes a deal with Sona BLW for the sale of its non-core railways business for 1,600 crore rupees. The transaction reported earlier by CNBC-TV18 pegs the valuation a tad lower than expected. Good afternoon. Welcome to Halftime Report here on CNBC-TV18. I'm Horbis Fatakia, with me Mangalam Malu. Well, no respite whatsoever for the index. It's not as bad as you would think, but it's the weekly options expiry, so a very crucial last couple of hours coming up.
A very crucial last couple of hours coming up. You know, what's interesting, Hormaz, is this tug of war that we're seeing in the markets. On the one hand, the good part is that the Nifty Bank is doing extremely well. The Nifty Bank at one point was up around almost 1%, though still holding with a gain of almost 0.75%. That's doing the batting for the bulls right now. But on the way down, we have some impact coming in on the FMCG space. Just look at HUL. It's probably one of the largest cuts that we've seen in the stock price on a daily basis. And the FMCG index is at the low point of trade. The advanced decline comes up for you, or rather, you know, the contribution chart comes up for you. Very rarely have we seen HUL being among the top draggers on the Nifty, you know, on a daily basis. In fact, 7.5% cut. I don't remember that kind of a cut coming in on HUL in the longest time. 41 points on the Nifty shaved off by HUL itself at a time when the Nifty itself is down about 30 points. So we'll keep an eye out on consumer sentiment. Really, you know, the weakness that all these companies have called out when it comes to urban demand is extremely crucial, largely because urban accounts for nearly 2/3 of sales value in the FMCG space, even as it accounts for 1/3 of the same sales volume. Only now had we seen beginning of recovery in rural India, and if the urban sentiment weakens, then you know, growth targets are pushed going forward, and as a result of which maybe there could be some multiple derating in the FMCG sector. But that's about the FMCG sector. A lot of other stocks are doing extremely well. We have case in point Syngene, which is up around 5.5%. The results were decent this time around, beating street expectations. We're seeing some traction in Navin Fluorine as well. Good results coming in. And then a couple of these banks which are doing extremely well. IDFC First Bank, case in point. And we are also seeing some traction in names like Bank of Baroda. A lot of these PSU banks, after some sell-off, have begun to come back. The only worry I have right now is on the mid-cap index, because in the first half of trade, the mid-cap index was doing well, but now it's begun to underperform the frontline end of things. Also yesterday, at one point it was up, what, 700, 800 points, ended just about 300 points higher. So from the highs, we are seeing sell-off. Can't rule out, you know, more volatility in the market as we move towards the Nifty options expiry.
No conviction whatsoever at higher levels, isn't it? And the earnings accidents as well continuing on the street as well. KPIT Tech is one of them. The management, though, maintained its guidance yesterday when the results came out. But then in a conversation earlier this morning is when the management said that they'll be at the lower end of the revenue guidance that they have given for 18 to 22%, and showing on the stock as well, now 14% lower for KPIT Tech. On the flip side, Piramal Pharma is the top gainer on the Nifty 500 index, now is up 13% after its results, also followed by another healthy growth from Aster DM as well. That stock also is trading with double-digit gains in today's session. So earnings reactions on both sides, and another earning reaction that we need to focus on is AU Small Finance Bank, and on the back of its second quarter results as well. Abhishek is joining in with more details on that.
Well, Homas, it was operationally a strong quarter for them, and like others, you know, we are seeing pain in the unsecured segment. The AU Small Finance Bank also saw pain in the unsecured segment. So slippages increased by 35.5% quarter on quarter. The annualized slippage ratio at 3.07% versus 2.4% in the previous quarter, and the gross NPA ratio inched up by 20 basis points sequentially to 1.98 versus 1.78% in the previous quarter. They have given some guidance for the FY25. wherein they have actually upped the guidance on net interest margin to about 6% from the earlier guidance of 5.7 to 5.8%. Now, there is pain in the unsecured segment, which we have been highlighting across lenders. Hence, credit cost guidance by AU Small Finance Bank has inched up to 1.3% versus 1.1% that they had earlier for FY25. This will be largely led by unsecured portfolio, wherein they expect the credit cost to be maintained at Q2 levels for H2 FY25. So for Q2, the credit cost in unsecured segment was about 8.5%, and that will be maintained for H2 as well. In terms of the numbers, both the ANA and PAT is a beat on our poll. Back to you.
All right, we take that point. Thank you, Abhishek, for that. Meanwhile, just keep an eye out on Amber. And yesterday was a big gainer on the way up, good results coming in. And today as well, as we speak, the stocks moved higher at the high point of trade. Maybe some sort of commentary that the street likes. There were a couple of brokerages also fairly positive on those results. So for 2 days running now, Amber has done extremely well. In fact, taking the weekly gains to about 29% on that stock in a week where the mid-cap index has actually wobbled around. Another stock which is actually holding up fairly well is Pidilite. The decent numbers coming in despite the consumer sentiment out here. You know, if you look at the overall numbers for Pidilite, if you compare it with the poll, yes, there was a mid-single digit sort of growth. The stock off highs because of weakness in consumer sentiment and general weakness in FMCG itself, but still marginally holding in the green. The poll on the revenue was 3240 crores. The company reported revenues of 3235 crores, 770 crore EBITDA. The company reported closer to 769 crores. No problems out there as well. Net profit too at 540 crores, largely in line with street expectations of 526 crores. What was this led by? It was definitely not led by the consumer business, because the consumer business volumes grew 6%. The expectation was 8 to 10% growth. The B2B business did a lot better. That grew volumes at around 21%. So that's a big positive. And secondly, raw material prices have been contained for them. So gross margin expansion has actually been 300 basis points versus expected 200 basis points. So all those factors working for Pidilite, even as the management has called out the first half as, having a few one-offs with regards to flooding, with regards to heavy rains, and with regards to the election as well. But going forward in the second half, the street believes that healthy monsoon, increased government spend, and growing new construction activity could be triggers. In fact, you don't need me to say this. We'll shortly get the management of Pidilite on this show itself to talk about demand environment and the way forward for the company itself. The stock holding up mildly in the green. Don't go anywhere. Take a short break. Come back. Get you more on the markets and other stock-specific action. Welcome back. Good time to get you an update coming in from the F&O space in the market, especially ahead of the Nifty weekly options expiry. 24,400 seems like a bit of a fulcrum for today, and that's where a fair amount of action is. Typically, when the Nifty is just flat, what option writers do is they use either the butterfly strategy or the iron condor strategy. Hormaz, what is the iron condor or the butterfly strategy? You sell an option or you sell a straddle at one particular strike, and then you buy options on either side to save yourself. Out here, we can see that at the 24,400 mark. The 24,400 call available for 15 rupees. You have the 24,400 put, which comes in, which is close to around 15 rupees as well. Together, if you sell this straddle, you are pocketing a premium of 30 rupees, hoping for the Nifty to expire in that 24,370 to 24,430 sort of range. But in case the market moves on either side, what you do is you protect yourself by buying the 24,450 call for a premium of 6 rupees. And on the other side, you buy your 24,350 put for a premium of 5 rupees itself. So basically what you're doing is you are earning 30 rupees by selling the 24,400 call and put, and you are paying 11 rupees for protection on either the upside and the downside, pocketing that 20 rupees odd itself. So that's the iron condor or the butterfly strategy. Why is it so called? Because if you put it on a graph as the payoff metric, then it looks like an iron condor, the bird, or the butterfly itself. So 24,400 straddles being sold for protection on 24,350 put and 24,350 call, 24,450 call as well. That's what's happening in the F&O space this afternoon.
Well, interesting F&O strategies and explanations for our viewers and for me as well for a lot of these strategies. Manglam, thanks a lot for that. Well, let's focus on Pidilite for now, as Manglam was just highlighting that the quarter was a soft one. Volume growth also missing estimates there at 6%. Now, he caught up with Bharat Puri, the managing director of Pidilite, and began by asking him about the weakness in urban demand across the FMCG sector and what he feels are the key determinants for the same.
See, if we look back at the first half, Bangalam, it is clear that we've had a series of events that, in a sense, have impacted demand. Now, in our categories, it started with the elections, which was a long election that impacted the availability of manpower, that impacted logistics. That went on to the heat wave. It was followed by a very vigorous monsoon, resulting in flooding in various areas, etc. Having said all of that, therefore, there obviously has been an impact on demand in certain geographies more, certain geographies less. But frankly, I think the next 3 months will tell us where the new normal is, because hopefully these will be much more normal conditions. You've had the festive season. Normally, when you have a short with the November 1st Diwali.
All right, Mr. Puri, we'll just ask you to hold on because this doesn't get bigger than this. A conversation between Jensen and Mr. Mukesh Ambani. That's the fireside chat that we've been waiting for all through today's day, and it's just about to start. You have the gentleman sitting on your screen. This will be a very interesting one, not only from an artificial intelligence standpoint, but where India is, or the technology trends are moving, and could there be a possibility of any sort of conversation, business-related conversation between the two gentlemen as well. Let's cut across.
No one has contributed more, Mukesh, to help India become a high-tech and a deep-tech India. Now, you're at the beginning of that journey. You have great aspirations. I know you have deep aspirations to help India become a deep tech industry. And what gives you that conviction, and why is artificial intelligence that moment for India?
So Jensen, first let me welcome you to our city of Mumbai, a city with a large heart. We are in what is the Geo World Center, which is new, which is built by my wife. So if I don't say it's built by my wife, I was instructed to say that.
I'm at her house? Her house is bigger than your house. And I thought your house was pretty big. Just so you know, from Mukesh's house, I could see my house in California.
So, and while I was listening to you, you talked about Nvidia being an exotic place. And I was thinking that when you are in India, I've got to give you my version of what NVIDIA means to me. And I was just thinking about it backstage. There's a very important word linked, which is called Vidya, V-I-D-Y-A, right? And in Indian, in Hindi, as we are all determined to make the best LLM in Hindi, right? In Hindi, Vidya means knowledge.
I knew I named the company right. I knew it.
So
everybody said, NVIDIA, what a horrible name. You will never make it.
So what it means...
I knew it. I stuck with it.
So you can take credit for this interpretation.
Gosh.
No problem. Right? So it still is
I'm smart.
It gets better, Jensen. So if we think about Vidya, Vidya is Saraswati. And Saraswati is our goddess of knowledge. So when you actually devote yourself sincerely to the goddess of knowledge and you acquire knowledge, then in our tradition, the goddess of prosperity, which is Lakshmi, follows. So what you are doing...
32 years ago, I knew this.
So
and now the story of NVIDIA has been revealed to all of you.
So our first principles, right, are what you are driving.
Thank you.
Is the knowledge revolution converting into the international, into what I call the intelligence revolution. And that drives prosperity across the world for all the 8 billion people. And I think that what we are at the doorsteps of is the new intelligence age. And on behalf of everybody, I am very proud to have you as my friend, and welcome to India, and thank you for actually contributing to the world to bring the intelligence age in our lifetime, and hopefully, together with everybody, this can drive to more prosperity for all the 8 billion people in the world, and particularly the 1.5 billion people in India.
Mukesh, it is such an honor and such a great privilege and incredible joy to be able to contribute in this way. And as you know, the IT industry of India is world renowned for its very large scale and not just in size, but in deep expertise of computer science. Very few countries in the world has this natural resource, this amazing natural resource called IT and computer science expertise. In the last couple of years, we've been working together to upskill, and we've now upskilled about 200,000 IT professionals into the world of AI. You know, what do we have to do together, and how can we work together to help transform India at the speed of light, really? Because everything is moving so fast, to transform India into a center, not of just IT, but a center of AI.
So, from my point of view, Jensen, let me tell you my own experience in India. First, right, as our Prime Minister has said, that this is a new aspirational India. What we have today is we are among the only country in the world where the average age of 1.4 billion Indians is below 35. So what is driving our economy is not only new technologies like AI, but also aspirations. And I believe that, you know the Prime Minister, and I believe that his leadership in terms of converting India to a premier digital society has been vital and continues to drive activity at the ground level. So it's demography, it's leadership. The third factor is that we as Indians have the raw talent. You talked about converting 200,000 people into this, but I believe there are millions, right? If we now see India has become home, right? Among all the companies across the world, our fastest growing industry is global competency centers. So we do space research in India, we do pharmaceutical research in India. I'm sure that you're thinking
computing.
of building chips in India.
That's right.
We are in our own energy industry, we do bioenergy industry. All the energy majors, Shell, BP, right, actually do their innovation in India. So India is fast becoming an innovation hub for the world in terms of where we are and not the manufacturing hub.
And so you know, we have over 10,000 engineers here in India ourselves.
So that's like our challenge. What we also have is, we also have what I call the necessary infrastructure, and we've been fortunate that we have the connectivity infrastructure, which is equivalent to the roads. So if you don't have roads, you will not reach your destination. So I believe that today, apart from the US and China, right, India has the best digital connectivity infrastructure, 4G, 5G, and broadband in the world.
Yeah.
Right. When people talk about Geo, and you know, we said Geo took India from number 158 in the world to number 1 in the world in 8 years. We, as a single company, didn't know anything about this domain, right? But today, we are the largest data company in the world, right?
Yeah.
Our volumes are equivalent to AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon combined.
Yeah.
So,
I would say size of local market is quite an advantage.
but let me tell you, like, the most satisfying piece, and
Well, having 1.5 billion
the
customers
best part,
would do it.
The best part's still coming.
That's pretty
Jensen.
satisfying.
So the most satisfying piece is that as Geo, we delivered about 16 exabytes of data this year, or we will deliver this year. And the average, in the US, you pay $5 a GB. In the world average for data is about $3.50 a GB. In India, Geo delivers data at 15 cents a GB. And what that means is
Do you encourage your customers to use their phones?
we do. And what really that means, Jensen, is a perpetual value.
Yeah.
Right? That technology has delivered customer value
Yeah.
of between $500 and $700 billion a year on year, every year,
And this
to
is-
Indians. And this is the
That's-
gift of technology
Yeah.
to the people of India.
Yeah.
And this is what you described as intelligence, we can do to actually bring prosperity to all the people and bring equality to the world. And that is the opportunity, why I described this.
Yeah.
And this is the reason that India will be one of the biggest intelligence markets. And it's not only our aspirations, but I think it is just the raw gene pool and the raw gene power that exists in India, the youth power that exists in India, that is actually going to
And
drive
Yeah. And Mukesh,
intelligence,
this is a
and hopefully
very-
once we drive
Yeah.
intelligence for our domestic market, right?
Yeah.
We will use intelligent services beyond software to integrate with the rest of the world.
That's right.
And Indians now will not only export CEOs to the world's largest companies, but hundreds of millions of Indians. Right?
It's true. It's true. All of my colleagues, all of my friends back home, they're all Indians. All of my CEOs.
And
Yeah.
hundreds of millions will deliver to
Satya,
the world AI
Sundar,
services
and, yeah,
to
Shantanu.
help a better world.
Yeah.
And that is why your being here,
Thank you.
right, is important. Your commitment to this country is important, and working together, right? This cannot be done by any one company, any one individual, but we all have to work together to bring this intelligence age safely to the world so that we can create a more equal world, a prosperous world, and allow the global south to catch up with the rest of the world.
Yeah, that's really terrific. And one of the things that you've highlighted is just the immense amount of digital data that's available, surely at Geo and in India. And this leads to one of the things that I want to announce with you. As you know, in order to lead in artificial intelligence, you need to have AI model technology that India has. You need to have data, massive quantities of data. And using the last thing you need is AI infrastructure. And we're announcing that Reliance and NVIDIA are partnering to build AI infrastructure here in India.
Absolutely.
And then the thing that I will say is that in order ultimately to create that into a flywheel is one of the great advantages that India has, which is a very large population of users. And so now you have the fundamental ingredients, AI, data, and AI infrastructure, and you have a large population of users that ultimately creates your AI flywheel. The thing that I really love, and when I met Modi ji, the first time he asked me to meet his cabinet was this has got to be about 6 years ago. He asked me to address his cabinet about artificial intelligence. And I was so surprised. It was literally the first time any government leader, any national leaders asked me to address his cabinet on this particular topic. It was long before anybody was talking about artificial intelligence. And my last visit with him, he said this, and it was really quite profound. He said, I was explaining to him the concept of AI infrastructure and why it's essential for every nation to have their own AI infrastructure, like their own communication, their internet infrastructure, their roads, energy, of course, and of course, intelligence should be part of your infrastructure, and the manufacturing of intelligence should be part of your infrastructure. And he said this, he said, it makes complete sense that India should manufacture its own AI, manufacture your own AI. You should not outsource, you should not export data to import intelligence. That India should not export data to import intelligence. And he said,
absolutely.
And Modi ji said, it's like India should not just export flour to import bread. We should add value to the data ourselves. And the partnership that we have is to start that journey, to build the underlying infrastructure so that India could have your own infrastructure. You surely have your own computer science expertise. And you also have your data. You have a giant population of users to drive that flywheel. And then one more comment. This is the thing that he was most inspired by 6 years ago. He said that artificial intelligence has the ability to elevate the entire population of India. And the reason for that, I was talking earlier to him about the fact that there are so few people in the world who knows how to program a computer. Programming is not easy. Here in India, it's the largest population of programmers in the world. However, still programming is not easy. Most people don't know how to program Python or C++ or Pascal or Fortran or Java, but everyone knows how to program an intelligence. And so the ability to program computers is available to a small population, but the ability to program AI is something that everyone can do. And if AI could be put into the hands of every citizen, it would elevate and put into the hands of everyone this incredible capability you and I get the benefit from, called computers. And this computer could now benefit everybody in society. And now he explained that back to me. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that is why I started by saying that we are very fortunate to have a visionary leader who believes not only in vision, but in execution.
Yeah.
And Jensen, where I see our partnership and is really, in a sense, I was waiting for your GB200s to mature, because like you, from first principles, I don't like doing anything but the best technology. And now your GB200, right, is undoubtedly the best technology.
Mukesh,
and I'm looking forward.
All of my technology is the best technology.
India,
including the next one.
India will start with what is the absolute best that you have. And I'm happy to, like, what we are doing at Jamnagar is we are now ready for big scale up. So we are building infrastructure, right? And we think big, so we're building infrastructure for 1 gigawatt, which can be expandable to multiple gigawatts at one location. We already have the green power so that we are not dependent on anybody else for power. We are building this so that we can scale this, and as your multiple order of magnitude technologies come, we will build our infrastructure, and we will. One important piece that I believe is important is that for India and Indians, right, we have to repeat a geo for intelligence to be really affordable, available to the common people.
Yeah.
And towards that, it is important that we design and build infrastructure so that to use AI, our customers don't have to change a phone, don't have to change their computers, but they can still get good quality AI, and we take the burden of putting that infrastructure together.
Yeah.
And I think that is what we are counting on you and us to do. On top of that, right, I have, again, great respect for my friend Mark Zuckerberg, because by bringing open source to the world of intelligence, he has given, everybody the opportunity to participate in this revolution.
Yeah,
and
Llama
be
3 has
state of the art.
activated every single company, every single industry around the world. It's incredible.
And what you have done with Llama 3 also, right?
Thank you.
Is, and all of us, we can build on top of that. And to my mind, this move of Mark will be written in the history, right? When we look at it 100 years from now, that open source, all the big things in the world have helped on open source. Linux was open source. Right. And I think that, at least from an India point of view, right, we can use Llama as a base model. It allows all of us to develop on top of a state-of-the-art model, and surely then we can fine-tune, train, retrain, do everything else. And I am sure that there is somebody in this audience who is very bright and very young, and we will have, right, into the future, an Indian model, right, as you very rightly said, which might be 10x of Llama. And that will happen from India, and I hope and pray that our young people will do that. But to start off with, open source is great.
That's right.
On top of that, right, all your tools, so the Foundry tools that we have, we are looking forward to a development center where we take core of your tools and train hundreds of thousands of developers in India to use all the enterprise tools, to use the Omniverse tools, so that we can really apply intelligence in a practical way. And to me, this is just the starting of this intelligence age. It's a multi-decadal journey.
Mukesh is talking like an engineer. You guys, listen to him go. He's starting to sound like a 28-year-old engineer. What do you guys think? I like it. I like it.
And that's why
that's awesome.
That's what we're going to do together.
That's true.
I can assure you
Thank
that
you.
like we did in data, in a few years from now, right, we will surprise the world with what India and Indians can achieve in the intelligence market.
Thank you. Mukesh, it will certainly we would agree that this is an extraordinary time for the world. And this is an extraordinary opportunity for India to have precisely the conditions, to have such a large population and large industry of computer scientists, at a time when this industry, the computing industry, is going to become the intelligence industry. Leveraging on everything that you have, leveraging on everything that you know, and your indigenous advantage, enormous amounts of data, a large population of consumers to drive that flywheel of intelligence to data, data to intelligence, intelligence to data, and have the national will to go do something about it. This is such an extraordinary time, and I am honored and privileged to be partnered with you to do this. And let's make it a promise today that we will work together so that India could take advantage of the intelligence revolution that's ahead of us. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so very much. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mukesh Ambani.
Thank you.
A fascinating conversation there between two heavyweights from the industry, Reliance Industries Chairman, Managing Director Mukesh Ambani and NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang, both in a fireside chat at the NVIDIA AI Summit. It was a conversation full of banter, full of data, and of course full of information as well. And lastly, of course, with the concluding statement from Mukesh Ambani that the Indians will surprise the world with what India and Indians can do with intelligence, with the way they did with data as well. Live visuals coming in there from the NVIDIA AI Summit. Take a short break here on Halftime Report. Back with the markets on the other side. Welcome back to Halftime Report. Getting back to our conversation with Pidilite Industries, where Mangalam began by asking Managing Director Bharat Puri about the weakness seen in the urban demand and across the FMCG sector and the key determinants for the same.
See, if we look back at the first half, Mangalam, it is clear that, we've had a series of events that in a sense have impacted demand. Now, in our categories, it started with the elections, which was a long election that impacted the availability of manpower, that impacted logistics. That went on to the heat wave. It was followed by a very vigorous monsoon, resulting in flooding in various areas, etc. Having said all of that, therefore, there obviously has been an impact on demand in certain geographies more, certain geographies less. But frankly, I think the next 3 months will tell us where the new normal is, because hopefully these will be much more normal conditions. You've had the festive season. Normally, when you have a short with the November 1st, Diwali, November and December also tend to be good. So I think this question will really be best answered in January to see, listen, are demand conditions really subdued as a result of external factors, or is there an issue with consumers? I mean, we know that rural markets have been subdued. I mean, it's simple mathematics. Over 3 years, if you look at rural incomes versus rural inflation, there is less money in the hands of the rural consumer. I mean, that's an obvious fact, and only companies that have therefore substantially invested and have a penetration opportunity like ours have done well in rural India. Others tended to suffer. But as far as urban is concerned, I would say let's wait and watch before we declare.
You're saying let's wait and watch before we declare. But do you have any sense of, is there any, underlying trend which points to either direction? I mean, the first half, yes, there were a lot of disruptions, but was there anything that told you that, okay, consumer sentiment isn't bad, or consumer sentiment itself is getting affected? Would you be able to give us any sense on that?
See, it's very difficult to divorce the external factors. So we don't take a state like Gujarat. If you've had unprecedented rains, the kinds they have had, so on and so forth, a month in the quarter gets substantially impacted. You look at some other geographies that have had similar issues. So I would rather just wait, because, based on one quarter or even on the first half, if I look at it, I still don't think there is enough compelling evidence to tell me that demand is great or demand is not great. I think we're still in the wait and watch situation.
Right, but that's specific to your sector where flooding and rains, etc., would have an impact. We're seeing this general slowdown in urban demand across sectors which may not necessarily be impacted by flooding and rains or excessive rains or the elections, etc., as well. Would you have a comment on that?
See, again, as we have a set of consumer categories, so on and so forth, etc. We have seen now, a certain impact on demand in those categories. It's not that, demand has been buoyant, but it's not also that demand is reduced. If you were to ask me in the first 6 months, in our consumer categories, those that are really not impacted by physical factors, has there been an impact on demand? I would say yes, demand conditions have been a little subdued over the first 6 months.
Got that. Let's talk about Pidilite itself. The first half of this year, your volumes have been shy of double digit on an overall basis. Would you expect them to recover in the second half, especially because of the factors that you mentioned? There is the festive season, monsoons and all the election-related disruptions are out as well. Is that on the cards?
See, firstly, I must say that if you look at our volumes, 9% versus double digit, I think you can give us a little more credit in this current environment, Mangalam. But I think we will be probably industry leading in terms of, and remember, we are reporting underlying volume growth, unlike lots of others who report total volume growth. Our total volume growth is in excess of 15%. So if I look at pure volumes, our volumes are up 15% in the first half. But that, in our view, is not the right way to look at it. The right way is underlying volume growth, which is this year's growth at last year's prices. Therefore, it takes into account mix. I think, while the jury is out, I definitely believe that with government spending being weighted towards the second half, a healthy monsoon, which will impact probably more the fourth rather than the third quarter, and the continued buoyancy in construction activity, very clearly our objective would be double-digit growth in the second half without any doubt.
All right. No, I mean, yes, you won't quibble between 9 and double digit, sir, but in between consumer and B2B itself, it has been more tilted towards the B2B side of things. So just wanted your thoughts on that. I mean, do we see consumer pickup? Do we see B2B moderate as, the base increases?
See, you will definitely see consumer pickup because, the consumer is the one that gets impacted much, much more by these physical factors. I mean, take a simple thing. You can't waterproof your home if it is pouring outside. You have to wait for the rains to stop before you can waterproof your home. I mean, just to give you a simple example. But having said that, if you remember a year and a half back, we told you how we've reoriented our B2B strategies. We moved up the value chain. We've now, also broken up our B2B businesses into core growth and pioneer, and we are pushing, and we're now beginning to see the results. I also must say that, for example, in the B2B area, especially in the project segment, etc., demand has also been good. So frankly, I mean, will we see healthy double-digit growth in B2B going forward? The answer is yes. Will we see double-digit growth in consumer and bazaar going forward? The objective is definitely that. But as I said, I'll wait another 3 months. But from our objectives, we are planning for that definitely.
All right. What would you call out in terms of a specific trend for raw materials? Because last time you did say that, VAM prices have bottomed out and they have hovered around that $800, $900 per ton sort of mark itself. From here on, do you expect some sort of inflation out there?
Currently, we're not seeing any signs of inflation. I mean, for example, in quarter three, we've already obviously bought for quarter three and it is at similar levels to quarter one and quarter two. Now, barring any geopolitical events, these days we're sitting on a powder keg as far as the Middle East or Russia, Ukraine or anything new is concerned. If any of this doesn't go out of hand, frankly, I think input prices, at least in our context, will remain benign for the year.
So in that case, I'll assume the higher end of that 20-24% range in the margins will continue. Let's move on and talk about, the paint business. You said that you won't comment enough on the paint business until the first festive season is out. Early trends of the festive season, what are you seeing there?
See, remember, we are in the southern states where the festive season, is actually Pongal and not Diwali. And as we said, the festive season has started. We've had an extended monsoon. We've always maintained that for us, paints has been a range completion exercise. Is it meeting our action standards as we are going forward? We will come back to you probably around March and tell you, listen, this is where we are on paint and this is what we are doing. But as I said, a company of our strength with our sales and distribution network, obviously we will get initial success.
Welcome back. You're watching Halftime Report. The Nifty continues to hover around that mark of 24,400 as the last couple of hours begin for this all-important weekly options expiry session. It'll be interesting to see if it holds on to these levels. More importantly, whether it holds on to today's low, which is around that mark of 24,350. Also pull up Colgate. The numbers just came in while we were listening into the management of Pidilite, and the numbers were in line with expectations, at least on the toothpaste volume growth front. It was in high single digits. The CNBC-TV18 poll was for a 7 to 8% growth, so in line with expectations there. But the management commentary said that they are expecting these difficult market conditions to persist going forward, but they will leverage their P&L to invest in high quality products for their consumers. The stock down to the lowest point of the day, but seeing some recovery from those levels, but still down 3% from after the earnings announcement. But with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Halftime Report. From Mangalam, me and the team that put this show together, thank you so much for watching. Business Lunch comes up next.